I would go back to the schools that they have to be blamed quite a bit. I mean, what they're teaching at the architecture schools right now, if you look at an average kid who comes out of this thing, just teaching architecture and leaving them on the open and calling them architects is no good. I mean, you have to give them the tools and get very good at it.
You must be among like 5 or 10% architects who are like going like way beyond for the technology.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I feel technology and architecture, it doesn't replace your skill, but it just enhances and complements what you do. So embracing that very earlier on really helped me even to get good projects and jobs. When I went to the United States, that was a big icebreaker for me.
When a customer is buying an apartment, he's always facing a challenge where he is left on his own visualization. So do you feel that this real-time visualization helps a customer to take a decision of buying an apartment?
There are some technologies we call as it's disruptive in one way, but some technologies are transformative also. I mean, so when you talk about AI, which is everybody has to talk about this topic now. But a step further than that, I would say if we are making our Navigo technologies or visualization technologies so well, why do you even need a house? You can live in a box with a 3D thing, and you can simulate a beach and air and everything else. We can actually live in a simulated environment. 3D printed in India, it still doesn't make sense because we are in cities, we don't have that kind of land. A high-rise is what we need for housing the 1.2 billion people. But in the US, there's land is plenty, and most of the houses are single-family houses. So there it makes sense to do a 3D printed single-family house. Vastu is a very touchy subject. It depends upon who you speak to. Nowadays, when we live in a environment which is all protected, we have air conditioning, we have mechanically ventilated hoods. Do we really still need to follow that?
Can AI replace everything? Hi Shekhar.
Hi Ajay.
Thanks for accepting the invitation.
Sure.
I'm super excited.
Great.
I think we go back like 8-10 years back, and our common connection is like the technology. Always been the technology.
Correct.
We never thought about anything else, but because of technology, we two got connected.
Sure.
And today again on the point of this technology breakthrough only we are connecting.
That's true.
So thanks for joining.
Thank
for
you
this
so much.
Qubit.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, this will be a casual discussion about it. Now, can you just tell me something about your journey and architecture, and more about the technology part which got connected with the architect. There are very few architects who are tech savvy. So I think I know only one of the person, that is you.
Thank you.
So please explain me about your journey and technology.
So, I mean, a part of me always had a foot in technology, no matter what. So even during my college days, going back to JJ College of Architecture, where I graduated from back in '94. So we joined in '89 and '94. In those days, we had only one single computer in the computer lab. And it struck my interest quite a bit, so I would go and work on it. And there was always a fight to get to that one computer. So, and it had that floppy disk where you have to emulate AutoCAD in black and white. And so we started our journey from there, and then reading books on AutoCAD, and that was the only way. And we had computers were very expensive, so nobody had a personal computer at home. So that struck the interest, and I started reading a lot of AutoCAD and self-taught AutoCAD at that point of time. And that really paved its way when I went to United States to do my master's. That really helped a lot. So I've had a foot in technology always, and I always feel we have to be a part of the road and not the road roller.
Yeah.
So I think technology helps us to get there, to do your work faster and more efficiently. That's how I've been here.
And this is which year you're talking about?
So we're talking about '89. So I started
89.
AutoCAD in those days where it was a black and white monitor, and I was one of the few in the class who really took on it very early, and then ended up also teaching other people around there, including my wife, then my girlfriend, I would say, now my wife. She also studied with me, Shekar Ganti, Kiran Advani at that point.
Okay.
But, so I was always interested in that, and I feel technology and architecture, they, for any field for that matter, but in architecture too as well, it doesn't replace your skill, but it just enhances and complements what you do.
Yeah.
So embracing that very earlier on really helped me even to get good projects and jobs. When I went to the United States, that was a big icebreaker for me, even in the US, so.
I started my journey in 1994, and during those days, even CAD was not in India. And you are talking about 89, and you were
Yes.
using already the technology, like you're
Correct.
way ahead. I think that always helped you, I think.
Yeah, it did, and the way it's about a personal desperation also to learn. I mean, if you want to be like everybody else, you can ignore that. But if you want to really stand out, so what really worked for me was there was a friend of mine who had a single computer where I used to live, and then after his office closed down, he would let me use it. He was very nice, and we had to emulate memory also as on a floppy disk because there was no memory, dedicated memory.
Yeah.
And he also paid for a book by George Omura. I still remember the name of the book. I went in a bus to really run and get that book because I wanted to. So I practiced on that computer for a long time and taught my wife CAD on that computer.
Wow.
So in those days, the technology was not there. There was a single pen plotter that JJ College had at that point of time also.
Okay.
And nobody was much interested. Nobody knew about all these technology. And the professors, for the biggest part, they didn't even allow us to use that technology because they said no, hand drafting is important.
Yeah.
But I cheated there also. I did everything on a Mylar, on a plate plotter, but used fonts that look like handwritten,
Oh,
and I
wow.
submitted those. So it was, efficiency was always a part of what I did. I felt why, when a calculator is invented, why go to a log table or do something else? So use a calculator, right? I mean, so that was always me. So
Oh.
that's what I like doing that. Yeah.
I also remember you mentioned you were on some panel with Autodesk also.
Yes.
So can you just tell me about that also? Because that
So
is a very-
when I went to the US, I was very interested in learning all these softwares. So I used to work at the bookstore there, and one of the days, one of the Autodesk people happened to come there to stack the bookstore with their softwares for selling and stuff. So I casually had a conversation with him, and I say, "Hey, look, I'm very good at CAD, and what can I get free software I can test?" And he really liked the idea. He took it back to his bosses. He says, "Okay, there's a guy who come from India. He seems to know he can be a beta tester for all our softwares."
Okay.
So I got onto the beta testing program very earlier on, back in '94, and then they would send me every single software that Autodesk made, whether it is AutoCAD, 3D Max, all those softwares back then, 3D Viz. So I was really like a kid within a toy shop, so getting all these free softwares which cost a lot of money. And then I could even use them. So I could use it for my own purpose and then just give the evaluations. So I did that for a couple years actually. So that's how I got free software. And then there I got a computer. I mean, there it is easier to buy a computer than it is. So we had the labs. But in those days, even Windows computers were not that powerful. So then we had Unix-based Silicon graphics there, which was used in industry. So slowly got onto the Unix platform, learned that a little bit, developed, worked on some games, and that's how that exposure was there on that
Oh,
one.
wow. Actually, I think you must be among like 5 or 10% architects who are like going like way beyond for the technology.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I feel that, yeah.
And even today I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
When we're talking about this Navigo product, when we invented this, first when we started showcasing was your project, if you remember.
Yeah.
So can you just tell me something about that project when we did the first project, maybe the HR's project?
Yeah, so like a visualization is such a core part of what we do. As architect, look at it this way, we developed all the 2D plans and sections and drawings to represent something in 3D, which is actually the built environment. But doing it the other way around is much more efficient because now when you visualize something in 3D, build it in 3D, and then cut the plans and sections from there, then it becomes a better product because now you cannot go wrong. Suppose if there is a window that you have shown in a 3D model and it is there, so you can see it. It's like sometimes in an AutoCAD drawing in 2D, what happens is when you delete a window, somebody has to remember to coordinate that in the elevation or a section, and these these are all disjointed. And once you work in a 3D model, it's all jointed. Then
Yeah.
you can take the plan sections.
Yeah.
So the approach is different. That is number one. Number two is also the visualization. So let's say, for example, if a staff or architect, a young architect working with us, sees his environment in 3D, spatially he's more aware of what he's doing. I mean, if he's moved a window or a stair, he's done a stair, he understands where it is and where the conflicts are.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2D environment, you don't get that.
Yeah, right.
So I think coming to a platform like Navigo, it's kind of important to see and visualize what you're doing.
Yes.
Right? That is the first important
Yes.
thing. So while 2D CAD drawings are still required at the
Yes.
site, the client would still require you to print a physical copy
Yeah.
and stamp it and sign it for legality and for contractual obligations. I feel as modern architects, if we focus on technology where it helps us to build, number one, to design. And the second part is how do you convey this information to the client? The client is not very good at visualizing like us.
Yeah.
Unlike music, sometimes when you listen music, it's universal. I mean,
Yes.
you like it or you hate it, or everybody understands the
Yeah.
language of music. But how many clients do really understand to visualize a space? So doing it in 2D I feel is a waste of time.
Yes.
We didn't do it because we didn't have the technology before. But right now, like the calculator, I'm giving you the example. It's a very simple example, but it's like this visualization technology and platforms that we have today, or rather we've been using it for the last 10 years. That changes the way the client perceives his space, and we are able to get approvals faster.
Yeah.
And that cuts short our time of deliverables, and there is no argument later. So once he sees it in 3D, he signs off, and then he can't go back saying that I didn't understand how it looks like. We are actually showing him how to look like. So I think platforms like Navigo really help us in that aspect, not only for our internal visualization, but also to be able to sell that product very quickly to a client, and the client then he can show it to his family and get their approvals much faster. So it kind of circumvents a long process and makes it very quick. So I think in that sense that product is really good, I would say.
I still remember our first project when we did so he wanted to check the terrace flooring, different textures of flooring with different light effects and all those things, which was not possible without this tool. And it was not able to take the decision. I think that helped.
Correct. And it's so one technology is there are 2D 3D renderings you can do, but these are static renders. You can't dynamically change materials and surfaces. So a platform like Navigo, what if when it helps us having a set of materials predefined or maybe something, and then we just drag and drop it back into the panel, and the client is able to kind of look at the if-then scenario. He's able to really make a decision quickly, and rather than waiting and saying, okay, we'll come back again at a later date with a new rendering. So that costs time and money for all of us and labor. So I think this platform, it just drag and drop materials on it and visualize it in real time. That's a game changer. I would say that.
That's the tagline also. Qubit changed the game. Our tagline. So when a customer is buying an apartment, he's always facing a challenge where he is left on his own visualization. Because as an architect, you design your project, you hand it over to a developer, and the developer with those creates some renders, and on those renders, still images, he has been using those to sell his apartment. But it is very difficult for a customer to visualize, and that's the way. So do you feel that this real-time visualization helps a customer to take a decision of buying an apartment? He will take.
Yeah, I definitely feel so. We should, like I said, we have the technology today, and we should harness it. So if it helps somebody to make a quick decision, whether it is showing him a model, or whether showing him a brochure, or whether showing him this Navigo system, and whichever is more lucid and easier, it should be done that way. So in that sense, when you see Navigo on a virtual reality platform or a mixed reality or with Apple Vision Pro or something. By the way, I mean we are harping about virtual reality right now in this day, 2024. But back in '94, I worked on virtual reality in the USC lab where I studied at University of Southern California. That was one of my programs where we wrote a couple of VR codes and we had the goggles, the big ones with
Wow.
the tethered to that. So we've used VR back then. I mean, it's not new. Now it is catching up.
You believed in VR from those
Absolutely.
days. Wow,
That
is
was what.
great. That is
In
great.
fact, my master's thesis also was a software which I've written for developing tensile structures and forms back then. So we wrote a lot of programs in AutoLisp, which is a programming language for CAD.
Oh.
So I wrote that, and that helped me get my green card in 3 months. So
Wow.
it always helped me. Technology always boosted what I did. So I am really happy about that. I adapted that very earlier on. And I worked for Richard Meyer, the world famous architect, for 13 years as a senior designer.
Yes.
So there too, when I joined, we had only AutoCAD. AutoCAD was just coming along at that point of time, and we just had one Unix system that we were Bentley or something like that. So then I trained the entire staff there and brought them to the AutoCAD platform, and then finally Revit. We started back in 98 or 99, whenever the first version of Revit was introduced.
Okay.
So we've been using BIM and technology that time. Now fast forward to 2024, even our practice has evolved. We use a lot of BIM and technology, but this Navigo platform is a game changer even for us, because if we are able to convince the client and the developer also to use this platform, so it's that single platform that can be used by us and the developer.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
that is see, for example, AutoCAD is my platform or Revit is my platform.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean necessarily the developers are also using that.
Yeah.
So they have to convert or do whatever they want for the sales. But if there is one platform we all can be on, so it's a smooth transition right from our architecture to the sale part, and then after sales or whatever that is.
Okay.
That will be a game changer. So then we are investing in one platform and not redoing this whole thing again.
Okay. So I have a very interesting question to you, because we had been interacting, even I had been in this field for last 30 years and interacting with many architects. So in last year, when we have launched this Navigo, the interactive tool, where everything is been seen by a customer. Whatever you design, if it is good, bad, whatever it is, it is like transparently seen by a customer, and he can understand that. So there are like few architects which are not accepting this as a tool, because they feel why to show everything.
Correct.
And I don't know, that might be the reason they have not done the designing part. There might be some limitations or those. So they feel we shouldn't use technology. So what will you tell to those architects where they are not accepting the technology, or how to go about? Because you has been embracing technology throughout.
Yeah.
But there are many architects who are not ready to even embrace technology today also.
Correct. So I have a very philosophical point to this, and I'll try and explaining it in a couple of parts. The first part is when you compare the fees. I practice in both the countries. In the US, I have an office there as well as in Mumbai. So our fees there is, let's say, on an average at least 6 to 7 times more for the same project than we get it in India. But if you look at the software cost, it's almost identical. So you can imagine that in India we are paying a very heavy price to use these subscriptions. Now AutoCAD and all these things, they are on subscription, which means you can't even buy them as an individual copy and hold on. So that means the cost to hang on to a subscription and pay for it through the life cycle of a project is very expensive. That is number one. Number two is, in India, we have also seen that the equipment, like whether it be a graphics machine or a graphic card, again, that is 2 or 3 times more expensive than the same thing that we would buy in the US. So imagine that the fee in India for an architect is, let's say, 1/7 of 1/6 of what we get there, and the cost is 3 times more for this equipment and softwares. So that's one limitation factor. Second is also about training the staff. There is a bit of a investment required at that. Not only that, but also you have to invest in good computers as well as servers and all that kind of technology. And then at the end of the day, the client doesn't want to pay extra, even if you're using the best machines in the world. He says that's your problem. That's your tools of the trade. Why should I pay for it? At the end of the day, he's only expecting a CAD drawing or a PDF or a printed copy. So he's not invested in it. The moment the client gets invested in saying that, okay, I rather pay this guy a little bit more so that even my efficiency and how I get those drawings and accuracy of the drawings, so there's less mistakes. Once they all come onto the same platform, then it'll be a game changer.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a big problem in that.
Okay.
But the counter argument to this, which I make, is if I was using no technology, let's say if I was hand drafting, I would need 80 people to run the same amount of work that I'm doing. With AutoCAD, I may be able to cut it down to 40. And with Revit and BIM and the other technologies, I can cut it down to 20.
Yeah.
So there's a human resource cost to this.
Yeah.
So if you factor that in, then I can make a case for technology, saying that although you're paying high, you look at the human resource cost.
Yes.
Then the office size would have to increase, then staffing and everything. So you can work in a smaller space with using technology and make that efficient. So that's a counter argument to that. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you see Navigo influencing the way the architects can approach their designs and all those things? How this technology is coming? How architects should use this technology to make better designs?
Yeah. So I feel there are tools even now like Enscape. We use it as an add-on to architecture, and maybe Lumion and stuff. But Enscape is one program that we have experimented with, where it's real time. So once we add something, we are able to visualize it on that. But the rendering quality of Navigo is based on a gaming engine. It's real time, like Twin Motion. It's based on Unreal Engine or whatever at the back end it works. It helps you to not only visualize the space but also the materials and the lighting effects and all of that at the same time. So I think if architects use that as a tool, like I said, instead of just as a presentation tool, but if it's a design tool, then it's a great thing. So just give everybody 2 monitors and a good computer. Every architect in the office should have 2. So one is your Revit or whatever drawing that you're doing, and the second on the parallel is this visualization tool. So you can see it side by side rather than a snapshot at the end. So it is a real-time working. That's what I would work. So I think architects can use it for that, and then the same platform, once this is all finalized, gets onto the developers platform, and then you add the sales tools to add CRM and all this kind of stuff. So it becomes the same package that is getting passed on. Right now, it's really a big pain because we have to do our renderings. Then we have to liaise with the rendering people who are not a part of our office, but they are a separate entity. You have to deal with them for the model making. You have to tell them what the materials are there. So that's additional work that the architect has to do there. And then thirdly, there is the developer who's making his own brochures, own models and whatever he has to do. So there are 3, I think we are repeating the work. If the developer who's giving us a project understands that maybe we invested, like somebody like you coming and on board with us initially when the start of the project, like I'm bringing you on a couple of projects like Mantra right ahead of the time. So you invested one time and then everybody benefits, and the end result is actually a culmination of all these refinements that has gone through. So I think that people have to understand the valuation in that.
So can you tell me a couple of project experiences where we did this interactive real-time experience, like we did for Goa, couple of Goa projects. So what is your experience about? Because you had been doing renderings throughout, and now you're looking at these Unreal renders in real time. So what is your opinion on this?
No, so for me, there is no other way, I feel. I mean, this is only one way for me. I mean, and I believe in it, especially when you add the layer of virtual reality to this. So visualizing something in real time is good, but also walking through that space. is that's immense. I mean, I would say that is one of the biggest selling points. In fact, when you were at the meeting as well, when we met with the Dynamics group for the Goa, they were blown away by what they saw, even on this thing. So imagine visualizing that space in 3D, standing there, looking around and appreciating the design and the space and the volume. Because in a 2D picture, how do you express volume? How do you express scale?
Sense of space.
The sense of space. I mean, how big is this living room? And when I stand on the deck and look out at the ocean in Goa, that's what we did. How can you see that project? I mean, you can't feel it. And by doing this, you are able to immerse that person into the 3D space as if he's a part of
Part
it.
of them.
And that is the most important aspect. And we were able to sell that idea of the project, with 2 projects in fact, which we did within a short span of 2 hours. We convinced the client for both of them, and he signed off on everything. There you go.
Absolutely,
that's what else? What is the proof you need? That's how.
Absolutely. So how technology has evolved throughout all these like 30 to more than 30 years you have been practicing. So how technology has evolved throughout, right? You like CAD, now you're using Revit, BIM, virtual reality. So what are the other technologies which you are exploring?
Correct. So, like I said, there are some technologies we call as it's disruptive in one way, but some technologies are transformative also. I mean, so when you talk about AI, which is everybody has to talk about this topic now. So we are also exploring a lot on AI right now in terms of our site planning options or energy analysis. So we run it through an AI platform right now through Autodesk, Forma, and those kind of stuff. And also we use a lot of 3D printing in the office, but that's already been there. It's not like a new technology, but we use a lot of it in-house because when we do everything in 3D, it's easier to shoot out the print also in 3D immediately that comes out of as an option. But what I want to explore further is 3D printed houses. Now that's the next technology that people are looking at. So it's like on-demand house. I mean, so if somebody wants an on-demand house, you have everything done in 3D, you show him and visualize it in 3D, and then just imagine hitting a button and it prints at his site. I mean, you send the 3D printer, which is they are already doing right now. So I think there's a big demand of housing even in the US right now. There's a big shortage of housing. I mean, they're not able to, because of cost reasons, because of labor reasons, there's a huge demand. So now this technology where you'll be able to visualize, select, design, and print. From the same platform is a game changer, and you can get your house in 3 months as opposed to 2.5, 3 years. So that's another technology is going to work. But a step further than that, I would say if we are making our Navigo technologies or visualization technologies so well, why do you even need a house? You can live in a box with a 3D thing, and you can simulate a beach and air and everything else. We can actually live in a simulated environment because your mind cannot tell the difference after a certain time what is reality and what is virtual reality. So it comes to a point where it's going to happen. So our profession is going to change where architects become visualizers.
That's a game changer, I think. Are you planning to have any home, like 3D printed home here in India?
So we are into prefab and modular housing too. So we are building something which we will showcase very soon. It's under it's like a mobile home that we are doing. 3D printed in India it still doesn't make sense because we are in cities, we don't have that kind of land. A high rise is what we need for housing the 1.2 billion people. But in the US, there's land is plenty, and most of the houses are single family houses. So there it makes sense to do a 3D printed single family house. They're doing a multi-story house in 3D printed. There's a lot of earthquake codes and to be complied with. But modular is the way to go in India, which we are already doing and experimenting with a lot of modular housing right now.
So that was very interesting. Something like Ready Player movie you're talking about. Can you just elaborate more about AI? Because there are many architects who would like to hear something more about AI because will architecture remain? Do you need to study all those drawings, and why you need to do all those things if AI is creating everything? So what is your take? Means, can AI replace everything? Means, or with AI an architect can take it to next level? So how what is your take on that?
So currently the way I see AI, at least as far as architecture is concerned, it is going to be very disruptive to begin with. But then people will learn to adapt to it and find jobs. Like if you ask me about 20 years ago when computers just came in and internet era came in, people thought they'll lose their jobs, right? But never in the history of time there has been more jobs created because of computers than it is. If you look at the industrial age or whatever, they didn't have enough jobs. I mean, the Great Depression and stuff. But now if you look at it, even with 8 billion population that we have, there is a lot of jobs created because of this technology. So for a short time, people might lose jobs until they retool themselves and relearn
Yes.
the new skills,
Yes.
and then there'll be more jobs created. That's what. And there are a lot of jobs that are very mundane and repetitive, and if AI and machine learning can replace those,
Yes.
and then give the man enough tools to just relax and run that thing and get the same amount of money, so why not, right?
Okay.
So repetitious jobs should be
replaced.
should be changed by AI and machine learning. But as far as the creativity part of it is concerned, it will enhance, but I don't think it will replace that creativity in design. I mean, I think that still, it may at a certain point, maybe in 10 years, who knows? But in the short term, I don't see that happening. There is still a lot of things to be done.
Yeah.
So we still have to be creative about it and, doing
Okay.
that. It's like driverless cars right now,
Yeah.
right? So the question is, if everything is done to AI, who's going to sign and take responsibility of that?
Yes.
Yeah, are you going to blame the Tesla for crashing the car, or are you going to blame the driver who, poor thing, never even touched the wheel of the car and he was working it on self? So who do you blame?
Yeah.
So you still need somebody to blame. So
Yeah.
even if AI is there, even if you need the driver behind it, so the architects will still be required. Maybe we don't need that much amount of staff at that point of time, but it is happening. I mean,
Okay.
it is. We have to embrace that very soon. And in the future, what I also see is there are a lot of allied fields that we work with, the consultants like MEP, structural, whether it is right now even for AI based for planning. If you look at master planning, it can do a wonderful job of giving you different scenarios.
Yes.
If you place a road here, what will be the cut and fill, or if you have a building here, how it's going to affect your sunlight. So for those things, AI is really good.
Yes.
And then, but does it replace your creativity or aesthetic value of that? Maybe not, and not in the near future.
Okay.
Well, it will happen somewhere.
Okay. So, in the age of AI, we also talk about Vastu.
Yes.
So, as an architect, how Vastu is important in modern homes? Because you had been a celebrities architects. You had been designing those super luxurious apartments for very high-profile people. So, what you will talk about? What you will say about Vastu? How that is important and how you play around with it?
So Vastu is a very touchy subject. It depends upon who you speak to.
Yes.
There are certain aspects of that which are more scientific, I would say, and 90% of that is more mystical, and which people really don't understand, take time to understand.
Yes.
So simple things like don't sleep in this direction. There's a magnetic north in this thing. But even that can change by a few degrees. So what do you change? Change your house every few thousand years whenever you build? It cannot be possible. So the Vastu rules and regulations came in many thousands of years ago, where they didn't have electricity or mechanical ventilation or all these kinds. So there are a lot of aspects in Vastu that talk specifically about orientation of rooms and stuff.
Okay.
But that had to do with because there was no natural light. I mean, people were cooking, using gas, not even a gas stove, just like a timber, or just to light the timber. But here nowadays, when we live in a environment which is all protected, we have air conditioning, we have mechanically ventilated hoods. Do we really still need to follow that? I mean, that is my question, right?
Yeah.
People who want to follow it because they are afraid to go against any law of that, and it's more mystical to them, then please, by all means, we go that. But where AI can help Vastu is even before you look at a site, if you just load the entire site into an AI platform, it will already tell you where the orientations and everything. It will color the zones where you should have. So that can help. I mean, it's a software. I mean, it's kind of it understands where it puts a template and then it tells you that. But I'm more of a scientific Vastu guy. I take only a few 5% of those principles which are more technical and scientific in nature. The others I don't. I mean, I quite honestly, because I question that as educated architect, that does this really make sense? I mean, it's like.
So as you practice in US and India also, so I think India is still prone to Vastus and all this?
Yeah.
You feel it?
Yes, I would say that, but does that give you more success? There's no proof that. I've had a lot of clients who did complete Vastu and they failed miserably in life. For one reason or the other. It's a fate or whatever you want to call it. So I don't think that guarantees anything.
Okay.
But in the US also, people follow Feng Shui. They don't follow Vastu there because Vastu is still an Indian concept.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of Chinese people there who population, they believe in some kind of a Feng Shui.
Yeah.
But overall, I have not seen people ask for such things. Even Indians who are living in the US, when they buy homes that is built by the Americans. So there is no question of whether that is Vastu compliant or not. Then you use remedies, right? There is a remedy for everything in life. So, but in India, I've seen, I would say 60-70% of the people would want that some aspect.
Yeah.
Then they say, I don't want to follow deep Vastu, a little Vastu. I don't know what that means. How do you not follow it through and the whole thing and this thing? But there are people who want that here quite a bit, especially in Hyderabad and those areas. They will not buy a house. In fact, the other religious people, like in a Muslim religion person, will not buy a house that is not Vastu compliant, because tomorrow if you have to sell it to a Hindu guy, that guy won't buy it.
Oh.
So even they have to follow Vastu, even if their religion doesn't give you that thing. So it has become so important right now.
Yes.
But if it works for somebody, why not?
So that was one reason when we were building this Navigo. So there's a real-time compass which you see on the top left.
Correct.
Because even when we usually an architectural plan shows a typical north.
Correct.
But a layman always is confused about where is east and where is west. There is always a debate.
Correct.
Because they are used to see north up only.
Correct.
As soon as north goes, left, right, and everything goes. So in real time you can move around, and we saw like customers looking in the bedroom कि मेरा sir कहाँ पे है, मेरा you show me everything and all those things. So they were like very important questions. So we started like investing more time and showcasing this compass now. And we found like as your ticket size goes up and up, this Vastu is becoming more and more important factor.
True, yeah. But see, that's a double-edged sword, because it's very difficult based on the layout of the land to orient everything in that same way.
Yes.
Like in Hyderabad, when you have a core in a building and you see two sides of the flat, they're not mirrored, they're actually identical. So I don't know, all the buildings look a little different, right? So it's very difficult sometimes to do that. So sometimes having this and showing it to people, they may have bought it without knowing it, but now they are aware of it, they may not buy it. So it could act as a double-edged sword sometimes. So everything has got two sides to it. So.
So do you have any interesting story about any celebrity regarding visualization? You did something, or you have anything to share with us?
Yeah, I don't like to take names, but I just keep it anonymous, because most of my clients, even their houses, we don't display on our websites and stuff.
I know.
So one person that we work for is a big movie star, a celebrity in India. So we did his house. So being able to create this kind of, first of all, when we started the project, we scanned everything through Matterport, which you did for us. That really helped, because every time to go back to the site was difficult. It's not, and 2D pictures don't show you around the corner if you forget to take a picture. By scanning the entire site and the entire existing building in Matterport, and then being able to navigate through as to what is there and what is not there, if there was a beam coming or there's a existing conditions, that was really immensely helpful. And then after that, using this platform where we can switch the materials and show the renders in real time and options basically of different things in real time, and walk through the spaces, that really helps quite a bit also. So that is, we use that technology in real time like this. And then on the Goa projects, for sure, we were able to show it to the client, and he's also a developer. So now the question is whether you want to go and sell the sales platform to him as well. So that's the next thing that you can do on that.
So Shekar, can you just tell some interesting project, some very interesting project which you did, and something about that?
So Panchil Towers, the entire Panchil township that you see near the towers in Karadi,
Yes.
that was a very interesting project which I worked with Mr. Atul Chordia. He's a very visionary guy. He gives a full free hand to architects to develop.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of first that we adapted there. For example, tunnel form construction. The entire building was done in tunnel form, and then we also did the bathroom pods, which are manufactured as a precast pods in the site down below as modular, and then lifted on top.
Okay.
So it was a very revolutionary, fast, quick way of doing it.
Okay.
And also using metal panels on this building. It's a 100-meter tall tower. It is perhaps one of the first buildings which has the metal panel clad towers in there. So there were a lot of firsts done on that particular project. And then in terms of challenging projects, the one I did the most challenging for me was a project that I did in Africa, in Guinea, which is this project here at the back. It's called the Sheraton Kipe. And it was a site where you don't have any hardware shops around. So you don't get anything locally. So everything has to be prefabbed or pre-thought about and shipped there. So if you break a tool, you have to bring it from Spain or France or something else. That's how difficult it was. So, and then in middle of the project, there was also Ebola that struck there. So it was a very challenging site, but we still finished that project in 4 years, which was a big, kudos to the team who worked here. We prefabbed everything from India. There are a lot of things that went from here already in ships and barges, which was all ducting and everything was all pre-done by Sterling and Wilson. So it was a good teamwork, and we were able to execute such a large project in a country where it is very unsafe to even travel, forget about this thing, and then the climatic conditions and stuff. So those are very challenging projects that we worked on, a couple of them. And then India, mostly all the materials are available, but right now the challenges we are facing in India is there are too many materials coming in too fast. People don't know how to put it together, or rather have not tested the longevity of one material touching the other material or how that thing works, right? So there are failures and that things are going to happen. So we are going through a learning phase here. Whereas in the US, because it's a more litigious society, a lot of things were already tested or pre-tested, and they have those materials have been there for a long time. And or there are certifications available, and there are companies who are willing to stand by it because it's a litigious society. So you get, the mistakes that you make there may be lesser, I would say, but here it is like they sell it and then you're left on your own. So what do you do? So that is the challenges we face on that. We have a couple of good projects that we are working on. Mantra is one of them. It's where you are doing the Navigo platform on that one. And then the Goa 2 projects are very beautiful ones. So our architecture is very specific, it's very detailed, highly detail oriented, and I'm a modernist. So although one of the Goa projects, we try to do it in a more of a Spanish style. But I believe in modern architecture. It's timeless also. You know. And so we have really good projects that I'm very happy that we are working on, and hope to use your platform for all of them.
Yes, thank you. And even for us also, the renders and the project which we did for you are one of our best projects.
Great.
And the reason is not what we were able to put, but it is all about your inputs.
Correct.
I
The
think
design.
every small inputs about that last input whenever you gave, na?
Yes.
I want that. Kuch to missing hai, that 5%, and
That's
if
right.
we add that 5%, that image becomes like
True.
200% better.
It's like cherry on the cake.
And that is always between the lines. It is you need to understand, and that
Correct.
you have an amazing app, because of
Thank
which
you.
we are able to do some amazing work.
Thank
And
you.
that are our best work right now.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yes. So what type of technology you expect, like a wish list, in next 10 years? You know the virtual reality and everything, but in next 10 years, what is your wish list about the technology? You can just go wild, and what is that you are looking
So, in our field, I can speak about our
Yes.
field. I feel that architects are still kind of at the cutting edge of it, if you will. And there are other factors who are connected to us, like for example, the contractors, the subcontractors, the people at the site, and the project management, and all these things. They are still far behind in adopting technology. So what happens is, until we have in a wish list, I would wish that everybody comes onto the same game platform and then able to exchange information and visualize. So for example, if the main contractor who's building the project, he had an iPad or some kind of a visualize system there and not relying only on drawings. And if he wanted to measure a dimension of something that he wants to build, but he doesn't need to call us or look at a drawing, he has a 3D model. He can actually have a measure tape inside the Navigo platform also. He just clicks 2 points, he gets the dimension of there. So we as architects don't have to produce so many drawings. That is a big saving for all of us, right? I mean, so right now we have to do everything in 2D, dimension every single thing, whereas that dimension, because you built it in 3D, is already there. You just have to take a pencil and touch 2 points and you get your dimension. And you don't have to wait for somebody to give you a section. You can just slide your scale, a section scale on that. You get a section of where you want it rather than what the architect has given. That is a big game changer. Secondly, what I also feel is, right now the quantities and the BOQs and everything that comes up, it's very disjointed right now. So somebody else is doing this as an Excel spreadsheet. Whereas we are building this in a 3D platform and a BIM platform and a Navigo platform. That entire costing should have already come out of it as a part of it, right? So then it is a real powerful tool, because now you're solving not only one problem, but also multiple heads of the problem. Third is, how do we exchange files? Till date, I see people exchanging files on either email is the main primary. Then WhatsApp is getting so powerful in India. Everybody is using WhatsApp like an email server, basically. So, which is fine, but then it is not a central repository to put something there. So imagine if we've all worked together as consultants, like structural, MEP, and everything is put onto a Revit model, let's say. And the client is also able to access the same 3D model, and the site is also able to access the 3D. Then there is no requirement for somebody to email something, these files going back and forth. So how green would it be that you access it from one site and not waste so much of data centers and megabits of services just to go back and forth. And each of our files are very big. So how do you do that? I mean, so there is a wish list that would be that people need to think about a single platform of delivery, right from design to the other side of it, and then the sales. So it completes a whole circle. Still, there are a lot of holes left in which needs to be filled up. So in this office, we at least what we have done for a very long time, almost 15 years, we have a lot of Revit servers. I mean, each project has given its own Revit server. So we have already implemented that technology in a big way, where the consultant, like a structural consultant, can actually work on his platform in 3D, in his Revit platform, and merge it with ours, so we can see it in real time. We don't exchange files between us. So we have already done that 15 years ago. I mean, so it is not new. It's just that people are very slow to adapt to that technology. They're scared of technology, and they don't have enough time to learn new technology and teach new technology to the viewer. So by having said that, there is a lot of shortfall that they are also facing, because then, what do you do with that, right? But I would want a single platform, like I was saying, right from sketch to delivery to site coordination, especially the site, where we cut down on the mistakes that are made. So we have more accurate models that are going out. People are able to measure that. So imagine if I give a model to a contractor and he's able to derive all dimensions from there. That means I don't have to dimension physically all these things, which is called the construction documents for me. It is a huge amount of task. When for example, if I'm showing a brick wall with plaster, and if the model already has it, he can even derive quantities from there. Why does he need to tell me to draw a brick wall with plaster? I'm already showing it. So that circle is a full circle, and that is what we need to try to achieve. Visualizing is one part of it, but how do you extract information from there and use it in real life? That's another part of it.
I think that's good food for our R&D team. We'll definitely look into it.
Sure, definitely.
So I also spoke with few architects. So they always say, Ajay, we can start with, but we don't get resources, because they don't want to invest their time. Correct. That is the first challenge. And if they start investing on like resources, they hire someone, they start using technology, and that person goes, and they're again left with a hole. So they are saying better we don't use that technology at all. So that is the one reason why even you are using twin motion, but there are very few architects who are using that.
Yeah.
So it is like, I think, just a step below the Navigo. You are doing everything.
Correct.
Just that's not that photorealism, but apart from that, everything is there.
Correct.
But even that is not been used by many architects because you require very hand workstations to
Correct.
run all those things. So they are not investing in that.
True.
So what is your advice about why they should adopt to the technologies, and why should they, and how should they go, and how you are able to do this?
So I would go back to the schools, that they have to be blamed quite a bit. I mean, what they're teaching at the architecture schools right now, if you look at an average kid who comes out of this thing, even if you ask him what softwares did you learn there, probably they would have learned one or two.
Yes.
These are tools of the trade. And if the school doesn't teach you at the school level and give them the infrastructure to learn, like Revit and BIM and all these other technology, rendering technologies, they either learn by themselves a little bit here and there, but not as a curriculum. I think we should go back to the school level and teach people how to do this, because these are the tools of the trade.
Yes.
You need to know how to use your drill and a screwdriver. I mean, for a carpenter.
Yeah.
If you don't teach him, if you just give him just a regular screwdriver and not a mechanical screwdriver, you should give him a mechanical screwdriver, because that regular screwdriver is done and done. Nobody uses that. It's not as efficient. You should know how to do it, but focus on this mechanical things, right? So the same way for softwares, what I feel is at the ground reality of schools and colleges, they should teach, at least in the last 2 years, they should teach them and make them more marketable. When these kids come out of school, they should be equipped with how to use these softwares.
Yeah.
And that way, when they join an office which is trying to adapt a technology, they would already has a trained person who already can help them. This is the cost of acquisition, the cost of doing this whole process, and cost of training gets only taken burden by the architect. So I think there's a industry-wide revolutionary change that needs to happen, and it needs to start at the grassroots level at the colleges and schools. So for that reason, I'm starting a new online platform called Internship for Me, where there is we are going to launch that soon, and where we are also giving a mandate as to what are the things that need to be taught at the school level, and the check marks and that kind of stuff. So we will launch that soon, probably in November, December. We'll launch that in India-wise. So we are trying to come up with the idea saying that, okay, what are the basic needs that you have? Just teaching architecture and leaving them on the open and calling them architects is no good. I mean, you have to give them the tools and get very good at it. I mean, and that's how you become this thing. And as far as the to answer your question on the architect side, I mean, what do they need to do? Like I said, the best saying I have is either be a part of the road or the road roller. If you're going to sit on the fence and learn swimming, I mean, you're never going to learn swimming. You're going to jump in the water and then decide whether you like swimming or not. I mean, that is also there. I mean, some people may say, I don't like to jump. That's fine. But at least how do you know it's not good? I mean, if you haven't adapted. So I think, or the third option is, hire people like consultants who can do it for you. If you don't want to invest it at a little higher cost, you give it to somebody like you and say, okay, you do it for me and be a part, like we are partnering on a couple of things, right? So we can do that as well, but at least adopt it one way or the other, as through a consultant or do it in-house. But there is no option of not doing it anymore.
It's very interesting. Love to see that internship part.
Sure, I will.
What are your final thoughts about Navigo and visualization tool? How this tool is really a useful tool? That will be our closing remark. And if you can add anything more on that, that's okay.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for I'm in the Apple ecosystem, so I've been waiting for the Vision Pro. I've experimented with the Vision Pro, but it's not yet there to do that platform. And maybe it's not open to all the softwares right now. It's only kind of closed in the Apple ecosystem. but it's an amazing reality platform. It's a hyper-real, I would say.
Yes.
So I've watched a couple of movies on there and stuff, but not really seen it in architectural use. But when that comes in, I think that is going to be a big game changer. The 8K resolution of what you can see
the real
and
time,
immerse yourself into that. So I'm waiting for that platform to happen as a. It's my vision of how. And then also equipping all the architects, the young architects, with tools and technology, and also training the office staff to do it, where we can be a smaller group and still produce wonderful work because we have the technology and tools and everybody is trained.
Yes.
If you don't train them, they're not going to be any good, and then you'll have more people that you require. So you rather have more focused attention, and then training the developers in India to understand the value of architects who bring in with technology. That completes a full circle at that point of time. So it's a multifaceted problem that we're going to solve. But my takeaway to my giveaway rather to all the architects is in India at least is try and adapt it as soon as possible. Otherwise, there'll be such a big change that's going to come. It'll be very hard for you to catch up. I mean, and the catch up is there are others who are going to take over. So either you be a part of the road or the road roller. I mean, that's you have to make that decision today. I mean,
Yes. Thank you, Shekar. Thank you for all your time, and thank you for giving all your insights and your words about Navigo, visualization, and we spoke about technologies. We are currently working on Vision Pro. We have a team who is dedicatedly working on Vision Pro.
Great.
And whenever you're next time in Pune,
just
drop down at our studio and we'll show you something which is really amazing.
That's great. We'd love to see
we are looking forward to it.
No, definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye.